Well, after suing a state court judge, taking down a United States senator and hog-tying him and zip-tying him, arresting a candidate for mayor, arresting a mayor, threatening to arrest a governor, what else? What else is left on Donald Trump's hit parade? Oh, I know. Sue every one of the federal judges in Maryland, alleging that they are in violation of the All Writs Act. Who decides a case when all the judges in a district have been sued and the motion or the complaint has been filed in that district? Where do you get a judge that doesn't have a conflict? We break it down for you on Legal AF, the podcast, and here's a clip. Karen, I wake up this morning. I start a lot of my hot takes that way. And I get this, blast on my text chain, and I look at it in my different feeds that I use to prepare. And it says, Trump administration sues every judge in Maryland federal district court. I'm like, what? I know they're not happy with Maryland's federal district court. It's a bluish location. It is moderate to a little bit liberal, and they don't like the rulings they're getting out of there. They've been fighting and telling judges like Judge Zinnes in the Mr. Abrego case, the pound sand, to go effectively, we'll talk about this in a minute, go F themselves. They don't like other rulings that have been coming out of Maryland. And maybe they think they've come up with a way, knowing that Judge Zinnes is about to find them in contempt. The second judge to do it, after probable cause finding by Judge Boasberg in D.C., knowing they don't like the decisions, they stumble across something that happened at the end of May. It's like, all right, we're glad you woke up, Rip Van Winkle. And the chief judge issued an administrative order to address a number of things that the judges were concerned about. Mainly, even up to the Supreme Court, that the Trump administration was hell-bent on deporting and removing people without due process, sending them to foreign countries, and then looking the court in the eye and saying, you don't have any jurisdiction because we might have violated the Constitution or a statute or a law, but you don't have any ability to do anything about it. Ha ha. And taunt them. I mean, they're literally taunting them. And so to avoid that and to enforce or to reinforce what the Supreme Court has said to judges like Judge Zinnes in the court, and to support what the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals itself, through Judge Wilkerson, has said a couple of times, which is federal court judges like Judge Zinnes in Maryland and other places have to do all they can do to preserve and protect their jurisdiction over related to habeas corpus and due process, related to migrants, undocumented illegals, whatever you want to call them. So they came up with a plan. They know that these writs of habeas corpus, which is exactly what the Supreme Court has said needs to be filed, sometimes get filed at odd hours. Takes a minute to spin the wheel and assign electronically a judge, for the judge to see the petition, for the judge to make an emergency ruling. So they said, we're going to put an administrative stay in place for 48 hours. After a petition is filed in Maryland, there will be an automatic stay to give the judge effectively time to figure out the petition, the jurisdiction, and to make sure that person doesn't get sent in the middle of the night or otherwise to a foreign country purposely to evade federal jurisdiction and oversight. Seems pretty consistent with both the Supreme Court precedent, the orders of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, what's happened in Judge Zinnes and others' courtrooms. But to Donald Trump, it's talk about pot calling the kettle black. It's an assault on the injunction rules, the All Writ Act. They're not allowed to do that. So he has sued in their official capacity every judge and the clerk to try to overturn this administrative order, which he conveniently misstates. If you were to read the complaint, Karen, and I know you did, it says effectively that the order would prevent the Trump administration from moving these people around the United States, and it puts a hardship on the U.S. in its negotiations with foreign governments. Like, what are you even talking about? It just says for 48 hours, don't move them out of the United States. The fact that they can't read is scary. Why don't you pick up from that filing, and then we'll talk about what kind of judge and who picks the judge is going to end up being the judge over this particular new complaint.
Look, I mean, let's just zoom out for a minute and talk about the big picture. The fact that that you have a federal judge, the chief judge of a district, issuing an order that applies to all future cases, that basically says, if any of these other habeas corpus cases come in, press pause for 24 hours before they can be expelled from the country, or 48 hours, whatever it is, from the country. It's just short, tiny little period of time to give them the due process that the Supreme Court has already said that they are entitled to. He's not saying you can't send anyone out of the country ever. He's not saying that that Donald Trump can't do what he wants to do. He's just saying he can't do it in the middle of the night without giving them notice and an opportunity to be heard. Just a tiny little brief period of time. But the fact that you have the chief judge of a district of, I think, 14 or 15 judges who had to issue this and say this applies to all cases here. And then Donald Trump comes forward with his administration and sues all those judges to try to stop it. It just highlights how broken this relationship is between two of the branches of government. It's just absolutely broken. There's no trust. I mean, essentially what the chief judge there is saying is, I don't trust this administration to follow the law. I don't trust them to follow the Supreme Court that says you have to give them 24 hours, you have to give it a period of time, right, for this due process, so that they can call their lawyer, go to court, try to challenge it, whatever it is. You can't just take someone out in the middle of the night in this country and send them to a country they've never been to before, that has no relationship whatsoever to their home country, and they might not have ever been there before. You have to give them some kind of meaningful opportunity, just a short period of time, and so just the fact that they already don't trust the administration to do that, and then that this administration then had to file this lawsuit. I mean, it's just really stunning to me that the breakdown in the relationship is just crazy. And it's just, it comes on the heels of the Trump administration constantly trying to delegitimize all the judges, and constantly just really calling them names and just ridiculing them and being very unprofessional. But that's what he does. He goes after individual judges. And it's just this whole broken relationship between two branches of government. And Trump just really seems to be delegitimizing the entire judicial branch. So that's the sort of zoom out version of this that I find really stunning. But then, as you said, Trump files this lawsuit, or the administration files this lawsuit, saying that the chief judge who issued this order, Judge George Russell is his name, that is intruding on the White House's inherent powers to, quote, enforce the nation's immigration laws, and goes on to say this lawsuit involves yet another regrettable example of the unlawful use of equitable powers to restrain the executive. Specifically, defendants have instituted an avowedly automatic injunction against the federal government issued outside the context of any particular case or controversy. Now, the reason I wanted to read that is, normally cases in order for a court to issue an order or a ruling, you have to have a case or controversy in front of you. And this is really prospective and looking at the future. And that's what they're going to try to get at here, saying, look, he's issuing this order. There's nothing before them. He's talking about hypothetical future cases. But that's where this is so significant, that this judge felt the need, because, again, just reading the writing, seeing what's happening across the country, seeing what's happening in other courtrooms, seeing people getting airplanes that are taking off despite court orders, seeing people whisked away in the middle of the night. There's just no trust that exists anymore in this relationship. So I thought that was what was really interesting about all this. And as you said, what this administration basically said was, okay, I'm bringing this lawsuit, and I'm asking the appellate court to put a different judge in charge of this lawsuit, because I'm suing all the judges in this district. And it's going to sort of an interesting thing to do, because if you don't like a particular judge, what are you going to do? Sue them? So to disqualify them so that you can then get a new judge? So I think it's going to be really interesting how the appellate court looks at this. And regardless, any judge that gets this is going to see right through that kind of foreign shopping thing. You can't just sue an entire an entire district. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Trump is breaking all the rules.
Yeah, I mean, technically, procedurally, if you wanted to do it, you sue the chief judge about his administrative order, not all the judges. They admit in the body of the complaint that the clerk is issuing off the administrative order an administrative stay. They want to make it into an injunction. It is an injunction in the sense that the administrative stay says enjoin, but it really is in the way of an administrative stay, which is sort of the lowest level temporary stay. We've talked about this on Legal AF a lot, sort of the food chain hierarchy of stays: administrative stay for hours or days, temporary restraining order, weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, could be a month, preliminary injunction from that moment till the end of the case, permanent injunction, end of the case until the end of eternity. That's how that works. So that's who you sue. But you're right. They wanted to sue Judge Zinnes, particularly, and another judge there, Judge, I want to say Chung, because they're in hot water with both of those judges, Zinnes in particular, especially after Zinnes has now learned what she always suspected, which is that Emil Bovee, whatever his name is, instructed a lawyer and others that are in front of her, including Drew Ensign, instructed them to effectively not comply with federal court order and to tell them to go F off. That's Emil Bovee's words. Now, during his confirmation hearing, he denied it. He said, I love this. It was like a Matlock moment. I'm just a lawyer from a small town. Like, what small town? New Jersey? I'm from Jersey. It's not a lot of small towns there. I'm just a lawyer from a small town. I deny everything that was said. And I would never tell anybody to violate federal court rules. Really? That's why they went after him. And I think the Democrats did a good job today with, well, what about the Eric Adams indictment that you dropped in order for him to play ball on your immigration policies that led to the noisy departure of a series of senior prosecutors, including the acting head of the office, who wrote a 10-page letter attacking you and your ethics. And Erez Ruveni himself being fired because, what was his crime? He told the truth. He told the truth to a federal judge, Judge Zinnes, and she commended him for it. He said point blank that Mr. Abrego was illegally deported by ICE, even though they knew he had an order of non-removal to El Salvador from a federal judge, an administrative judge nonetheless, but a judge, an immigration judge, and they did it anyway. And now, in every order we've ever seen about Abrego, it says he was illegally deported or removed, including the United States Supreme Court saying the same thing. And that's because Mr. Ruveni told the truth. And so that's another reason. Now, how does the judge get picked? There's a statute. There's always a statute in the law for how you pick a judge in this scenario. And the chief judge of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, Judge Diaz, who is, I think, an Obama appointee, he has to choose another judge from the Fourth Circuit. And here's where the forum shopping comes in, which includes North Carolina, South Carolina, and West Virginia. He's got to pick another judge in there who doesn't have a conflict. So you can see Trump already going, I go from the blue state of Maryland to the red states of, purpley of North Carolina and red of West Virginia and West Virginia, South Carolina. I'll take it. So it is a way to get the motion in front of a more favorable judge. But that is what's going to happen. And then that judge is going to have to hear the arguments. Here's the other issue that's up for grabs. Who's going to represent the judges? Not the Department of Justice.
That's a good question. Who is going to represent the judges? They're
going to have to use a budget and go hire. There's going to be a pro bono law firm. Let me think who that would be. How about Jenner and Block, Wilmer Hale, Sussman Godfrey, and Perkins Coie, or other firms right behind them that are Robbie Kaplan. There's going to be firms that are going to stand up and volunteer. Danya Perry. I can think of a million firms that would step up to represent that group. They need a lawyer. They're not lawyers. They're judges. So you're going to see a group of public interest type law firms or law firms who are not scared of the Trump administration step forward. We keep going. Quinn Emanuel, representing the American Bar Association in the Abrego Garcia. Well, they couldn't do it because they're in the Abrego Garcia case.
Also, they need 14 judges. I mean, 14 lawyers, right? They're each going to want their own lawyer.
I think they're all similarly situated.
Yeah, but they'll probably hire I think they'll hire. Why not?
All right, you and I'll fight that out. I think they get one law firm to, with a joint letter. You and I have done joint engagement letters that says, well, you're all in the same boat. Seek the dismissal right away of the individuals and keep just the judge, the chief judge. But this will be fun to watch. But while we're watching,
do you think, wait, really quick, do you think Trump is going to take one of his $1 billion worth of pro bono legal services that he shook down the other law firms? Do you think he's going to use one of those firms? I think this is going to play out a battle of the fancy law firms. That's what I think is going to happen. Well,
that's very interesting. You know what we should do another hot take on, you and I together, after we do a little bit more research? I haven't heard anything about how that $1 billion of free public service pro bono work is being used. Have you heard of a case where they're not going to advertise it, where one of these big fancy firms that was shaken down and bent the knee, where they're doing actual work for Donald Trump in the courtrooms? I haven't.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
Yeah,
I haven't either. But I think one of the law firms that fought and won against the Trump administration is going to raise their hand and say, I want to represent the judges and go against one of these other. We'll see how this plays out, but I think this one is going to be one to watch because this is a big deal. You're suing an entire district of federal judges. Yeah. This is a huge, huge deal. This is so different than representing somebody who might be here illegally or representing, this is just a different type of defendant, I think, that lawyers are going to want to be on the right side of. And look, also, guess what? Other district judges are going to notice that these are the firms who are standing up for their brethren, and that's going to make a big deal. So I think you're going to see a lot of lawyers who are going to sign up for this.
Great. I just did an interview today that'll be up tomorrow on Legal AF with Skye Perryman, who's the president and CEO of Democracy Forward. And we were there to talk about a brand new filing that they did in federal court in Texas, where the Trump administration, this is another page out of their playbook, is conspiring and colluding with red states to try to take laws off the books by having the attorney generals of those states enter into phony settlements and consent decrees to declare that laws on their books are illegal, to try to do an end run around the legislature and the will of the people. So there's a Dreamer Act in Texas, a DREAM Act, that's been on the books since 2001 with Governor Perry. Speaking of Perry's, with Governor Perry, and Governor
Perry, Danya Perry, Skye Perryman,
Skye Perry, Admiral Perry here.
Yeah,
no Perry, it's a Perry day. But that's been on the books, giving free tuition to anyone that graduates from high schools in Texas, regardless of their immigration status. Trump hated it, so he served a lawsuit, and an hour later served the consent settlement with the Texas Attorney General. Just days after the legislature, even the Texas legislature, was unwilling to take the law off the books. We call that kind of clip the After Dark edition. Why? Because, sometimes you can't eat a whole Snickers bar. You want to have a little bite. So we do these kind of bites as part of our marketing to kind of grow our audience. If you had a chance to watch the whole podcast, we of course appreciate you. Maybe you never heard of the podcast. Maybe you never heard of me, Michael Popok, or Legal AF. It's possible. But we wanted to continue to bring this content to you. If you know about us and you caught the episode, send that off to people in your life and ask them to join our journey as part of their own. If you don't know anything about Legal AF, that's my invitation to join us every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch Network, and then on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, for everything in between at the intersection of law and politics. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.